Good evening. Good evening. Let's try again. I'll do John's thing. Good evening. Thank you. If anybody doesn't know me, I'm Lori McCullum, and very happy tonight to welcome Phil Lund from the UUA. But before I introduce Phil, I would like us all to thank Jan DeGrieve, if she's even here. She might be downstairs. Where is Jan? She's probably downstairs working on ice cream. If you have an opportunity to thank Jan, she coordinated this wonderful event. So thanks to Jan. We'll thank, when she walks in the door, we can all cheer. It'll be unexpected, right? So for tonight, I'd like to introduce Reverend Phil Lund, who has 20 years of experience serving congregations in the areas of faith formation and spiritual growth, first as a religious educator in Bloomington, Indiana, New York City, and Chicago, Illinois, and most recently as a congregational life consultant working for the Mid-America region of the UUA. He holds a Master of Divinity degree from Meadville Lombard Theological School in Chicago and a certificate in interspiritual counseling from One Spirit Learning Alliance in New York. He currently lives in St. Paul, Minnesota with his wife, Julia, and their son, Henry David. And we want to welcome Phil tonight to walk us through our startup weekend. Thank you.
And our cat, Nika. She's very nice little cat. Yeah, and it's that's an old date. It's like almost 30 years experience now. It's like, oh, wow, that's a long time. So yeah, tonight we are not just here for ice cream. We are here to do what we call a startup, which is when somebody from outside the congregation and also not the minister comes and visits a congregation and gets the congregation and the minister together to kind of start thinking about, well, you already have been thinking about this, but really focusing on how this ministry is going to work together and what the possibilities are for the future. And we start by looking at the past, and that's what we're going to do tonight. And the idea actually is to give Sabrina a chance to hear some living history of this congregation. And that's you all, the living history of the congregation. And I don't know if any of you have ever done an exercise like this before, but way back when, we used to put like butcher paper around, you were nodding, right? And then we would go 1830, and then you would fill in things about, you know. It was very nice. But I kind of stumbled on the idea of having people get into groups based on how long they've been associated with the congregation, whether that's as a friend or a member. You know, what decade did you start coming in? And let's just go backwards, and I'll just see from what we have here. How many people started coming in the 2020s? That would be this decade. Okay, hello. Ooh, great. All right, now how many people came in the teens, the 20 teens? Yeah, okay. And how many people came in that first decade of the 21st century? Oh my gosh, what? Do we have a gap? This will be interesting. We'll have to fill that in collectively. How many people came in the 90s? Okay, good. How many people came in the 80s? Whew. Yeah. Anybody from the 70s? Oh my goodness. All right. Is there anybody from the 60s? Okay. All right. Well, that's pretty good. Going back to the 70s is pretty good. So what I'd like to do is to kind of collect us into groups that way. And the best way that I know how to do that is kind of arranging ourselves in order of how long you've been here. And then once we have seen what the decades look like, I hate to mess up the chairs too much, but if people could like get into some small groups based on how long they've been here, we're going to have an opportunity for folks to talk about what was happening in the congregation when you came. And I'll give you some more ideas about what that would be. But let's very slowly and gently kind of rearrange ourselves. And way over here, those 70s folks, can you kind of like, way over here? That's a long way. We're going to start with the 70s. We have the 70s folks. You're all going to kind of have that meet up. You want to start with dates and
So 70s.
Yeah, right.
yeah, so now then the 80s people will kind of be following them. Who do we have from the 80s? All right. Where were you in? Oh, no, we're going across this way. I'm just getting a little line up here. Okay, so we're coming this way. So our missing 90s people are here, right? Did we have no? It was the 2000s. Okay, so 90s people are around here. 90s? Okay, and then this is our 2000s. Nobody there? Where is this? There we go. Okay. All right, and then, so we have the teens now, 2010 to 2020 about. And then we have finally folks who came in the 2020s. Okay? It's all right. There they are. There they are. Okay. Okay. Woo. This is going to work. You're totally responsible for your decade, though. No, we got two. Oh, you're all right then. Okay. I was recently at an event. And they told me, they gave me the microphone, and they said, don't turn it off. Because if you turn it off, the most horrifying noise will come from the speakers. And it did. I didn't turn it off. It just turned off by itself. It was horrible. It was like a jet plane taking off. So, okay, so we're going back to the 80s? So, 70s, okay. All the 70s people, raise your hand. Okay. You want to do the 80s more than the 70s? Oh, you'll do the 70s? Okay. So what you're going to need to do, people who came in that decade, is kind of sit close enough.
The job changed for my husband.
You what?
The job changed for my husband.
Oh, okay. In the 70s?
No, in the 80s.
In the 80s, okay. So what we need is to make kind of like a little group where you can talk together, okay? And I don't know who puts the chairs back for Sunday morning, but sorry about that. So are you the 80s people then?
I am. I'm not. I'm a visitor.
Oh, that's fine. That's cool. All right. But you can hang out. All right. So you need to make a little group too then of 80s people so you can kind of hear each other. And can you do that? Just mess up the chairs a little bit. You can, just a little further back there so you can hear each other more than this group here. Do we have 70s people? These are the 70s people. No, these are the 70s. These are the 80s. Yeah. So you're the 90s? So you can make a little thing? And you're the, look at you getting all ahead of ourselves. Perfect. You're the, do we have more? Do we have 3 now? Yeah, okay, excellent. Yeah, a group, a quorum. Okay, now you might want to pull out a little bit more because you got a big group here. Okay. From 2000 to 2010? In the teens? Okay. All right. Oh, and this is like you've come in the last 5 years? Wow. That is really cool. That's a great name for you. Your name tag should say that. Can you make a circle so you can hear each other? And I'm going to give further instructions, okay? Okay, that works. I see people in groups. Okay. All right, this is awesome. So, here's what we're looking for. Yeah, I know. Okay. All right. Okay, everybody. Here are the further instructions. Okay. All right. Okay, it's 7 o'clock. Look, see, like we're right on time. So here's the deal. What we're looking for are kind of the events, the things that were happening in the congregation when you came. Okay? Now, they can be world events. You might want to mention like, well, we were just getting over a global pandemic, like that. Or, but also we want to look at the congregational events. So I noticed the display downstairs with all the ministers, and then it had pictures of the buildings, and from that little display there you can say, oh, these 5 ministers were the ministers when the church was here, and like that. But we want to get those details from people who are actually here. So the thing is to think about, in your decades, who were the ministers. Okay, you might have just had 1, or you might have had 2 or 3 if you had interims. Who were the ministers? This building was already here by the time the 70s people came. But I know there were some changes in the building, right? Like geothermal. Does that ring a bell? There we go. Where did that happen, right? So what were some things that were happening in the building? Was there a mortgage that got paid off at some point? Or is, huh? No? It's still going? Okay. Okay. So what are some events like that? And then there are things like, some people mention, one of our longtime members passed away and left a lot of money. There might have been a big endowment that happened during a certain decade. Or, I hate to say it on the other end, is, that's when we had somebody embezzle a lot of money, too. I mean, there are like 2 sides to things like it. What was happening in each decade, Good things, and maybe some not so good things. There's also like, what kind of social justice things were going on? 70s people, right? So anti-Vietnam War stuff like that. Yeah, and then we get into, LGBTQ rights and things were happening in different decades. So, just what do you recall about the meeting space? Was there any major changes there? What do you recall about the ministers? What do you recall about any sort of big events that happened in the church? Like I said, maybe it was a major donor, or maybe there was a scandal of some sort. And also, what do you recall in terms of like, how was the church living out our values in the public, like in social justice work and things like that? And then if anything else comes to mind, make a note of that too. So just be ready. Let's give you all, oh, we got a lot of time. Let's give you all a good 20 minutes to kind of talk about this. And if you can just be able to remember to name those things, either write them down or make a note on your phone or whatever, just to be able, because we'll report back. And we'll tell everybody else the things that you come up with. Okay, does this sound doable? Does it sound doable, 80s? Yeah? Okay. 90s? 90s? Well, this group has really grown. Hello, first decade of the 20th century? Is that who you are still? For this church, yes. Yeah. No, this church, yes, that's right. And then you're the teens and you're the 20s, okay? So I've got almost 5 after, so let's go till 25 after, and I'll check in with you here. That's what I'll be doing. So just see what kind of list you can come up with.
I hate when that happens.
No, they weren't. This is a bad situation, but it was at our regional assembly.
They were really almost gone when they
It's
got.
kind of sad. They kind of made the music director into the tech guy too. You know, it's like, oh, you know, we need you to do this stuff too. And he was clearly like not super comfortable doing that. And I wouldn't be either. It'd be like, you know, he said, oh, you got to start doing tech, minister. And I was like, what?
No.
But he warned me, and we had the microphone. It was just sitting. Nobody touched it, and then this horrible noise.
Oh, no.
So I guess this is being recorded, so you know you'll be able to go back and hear what they say.
I'm kind of bummed at the archives. I don't see that many people that they have a big archives team. And they gave me a couple of booklets
Yeah.
that of the history, and one of them is really delightful because it's little writings and things from the history way. And you know, Wade Still Sharp was minister here for a number of years.
Yes, right.
And he was one of the ones that was here during the building of this building.
Right. At the end of the 50s, right?
And he wanted to stay longer, like to see the payoff of the bills.
Oh, yeah.
Like then somehow, I don't know what happened. It sounds like they didn't want him anymore.
Yeah.
But like one of the things that is collected in this like book of little writings is a Christmas card to the former treasurer. Because a bunch of people gave loans here in church.
Right.
And they didn't want to pay back. A number of families said, it's fine. It's not a loan, it's a gift. And so there's Reverend Sharp writes a note to the treasurer saying, thank you for all of what you did. Thank you for having a plan. And when he was already in a different congregation, like in the 70s.
Yeah. So when they kind of forgave the dad, he's still got that.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting to find that out.
Yeah, and like I just saw it today because the first time I was here, the archives gave me these things, and I'm like, okay. I was thumbing through them as I was waiting for my meeting with the director, and I'm like, well, that's interesting. Then there's little poems, little recitals, little thing, like all these, more than the narrative history. Like just,
That sounds good. Yeah.
And I'm a little bit of a nerd about church history. I think it matters because it's like you can see the personality of a place.
Right, that's it.
You know, the culture, and you know, there's a lot of similarities to my former home church in Austin with their history. So, I feel it's like when I was interviewed when I was contacted, there were a lot of things, especially the Patrick movies. I'm like, oh, it's happening to them too. Oh, that must be, I felt like a kinship.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love this building. I've been here several times. I mean, Roger Butts. He came the year I came, and so I was here as a board member. So that's over 20 years ago. And you've been down here several times since. And I really love the building. And, even if the congregation doesn't grow or become huge, it'd be nice if they could figure out how to keep the building, keep it busy, keep things happening here.
Yeah, I hope that, like not because of me, but like new members, new theories, that we can attract new people. They can see the potential. Like, this is such a convenient location.
I know.
It's not in the middle of town, and I went downtown just to see how it is and where the other one used to be. And it's kind of a nightmare park. Instead here, there's only space. I've always found it fairly convenient. I've stayed at a couple different hotels. They're like 3 minutes away. Right. I'm staying with Karen, who is in the 25th, I think. And she lives on, like, basically a mile and a half, and it's super convenient. And finally, her daughter likes me because her daughter didn't like me initially. And today, somehow we came to an understanding. I'm more of a cat person.
Oh, yeah.
And I think maybe we could smell the cat or but today, we had a really good, we didn't go for the throat or anything. Came and hugged me and I pet him and all seemed well. So, it's a good arrangement.
No, that's great. That's great. Are you going to be at the
No, I have a series of doctor's appointments that I can't reschedule. I tried, and also it's the week after I come back here, like that.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I usually am tired.
Yeah, right.
Which, I don't know if it would be, like, if more time would make me less tired, because here it's so concentrated. That I have to take care of all these things here after. And maybe spending an entire week, like, or 10 days, like, kind of time would be to dilute all the things to do into all the time, and it seems less hectic. But it really, I find it really kind of tiring. So I wanted to come to a retreat. I might attend online.
Oh, yeah.
Because first of all, I didn't do it in time. Then I looked at my calendar. I'm like, no. And then I think Beth, the person in charge, I don't remember who it is. I think it's Beth in Urbana. Said that there could still be people who do it online. So I should apply.
So, okay. Yeah. Well, do if you can,
No, I wanted to go because I know the speaker it would be exciting because it's music and I like music.
Oh, yeah.
And the retreat, like the regional retreat.
Well, there's 3 of them.
There is the one in Illinois, the in Woodstock.
Yeah, that's the Prairie Star one is in Cedar Rapids.
The one in Cedar Rapids also can't go.
Yeah, and there's a musician coming to that one, so it's interesting. So they're both getting musicians. The
I
Central
forget his
Midwest?
name. Yeah, the Central Midwest one is getting. He was the music director at GA last year.
Oh, Glenn Thomas Rider?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
So
he's doing 2 workshops that
Yeah.
I wanted to go, and I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
you know, but at least attending online, at least I'll see some of it.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah. But yeah, Prairie Star is having Leah Morris.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
I love her.
Yeah, she'll be there Monday night. Yeah.
I did. I was asked to be the worship leader for the retreat of the community ministers retreat.
Which one?
Community ministers.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And I was asked and if I could do it, and I wanted to pick the music, and I had picked something that was taking forever to get the rights, so I wrote to the one. I don't know, right? I just wrote in an email, and she replied to me like within an hour, saying yes, you have the rights, and I put her in touch with the UMA. Like it was, she's such a sweet person.
Yeah.
You know, thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
This is how much it costs, and you know, I wish you all the best of luck. And it was beautiful.
Yeah. No, she comes off as a wonderful person online, and so it's going to be great to meet her.
Yeah, she is. Yeah.
So, well, you know, how often do you come this year?
Once a month.
Just once a month.
But I come the Thursday.
Yeah. Yeah.
Late morning, afternoon.
Yeah.
And then I stay until Sunday after coffee. Or like in October, they're doing this after church. They're doing this kind of forum about their questionnaire, like a transition, like all the questions that people ask to have the packet for prime ministers. They did it, and so they were talking about what their priorities are.
Yeah.
You know, what's the trust like in the leadership,
Yeah. Well, I think that, you know, we've been very intentional.
Yeah.
It's good. This actually isn't a bad turnout. This Friday night thing, I don't know the real purpose of it, although I think the biggest purpose is that people who are on the board and stuff like that just get some sense of what's going on this weekend. So it's not like this mysterious thing that's happening.
Right.
But, you know, that they understand what we're doing. But for me, it's just a good chance to get people together to talk among themselves about the church, and you know, and then hopefully that's like loosening them up a little bit,
Yeah.
if that makes sense, you know.
Yeah, I find that a lot of the people that I've met are willing to listen. There's a willingness to, you know, talk to their, you know, growing edges,
Yeah.
to listen,
Yeah.
at least even just hear me out, you know. Like last night, for probably just teams, that's the people that were close to me, other people that I don't know. The concept of having worship so that
Right.
So choppy, like because every week a number of people volunteer, but they don't have the
Right.
cohesive
Yeah.
script. And that was initially there was resistance, but like I seriously and like worship without other distractions, kind of income, you know, for an announcement. And And I'm kind of optimistic. Like in the new year, I don't know, we can do a training. And I have a lot of examples that I can go from, and I can ask other colleagues that like, what is expected of worship associates and what's what they need to do for their at least there's and there's variety. So that's we got one of the best DMs now. They might say they are convinced, right? Like persuaded. And I wasn't expecting that, and I'm like,
Well, that's great, and you know that would bring consistency that eventually from service to service.
yeah. And so if there's somebody else in the board that ultimately like I watch every service when I'm on TV just to get an idea, and the content is the form,
As a form,
yeah.
And that's, I think it would be helpful if, you know, for newer people especially, to like if they come to service and you're here, and then, you know, okay, well now it's going to be a few weeks we're here, but there is that consistency, and they feel like, and then they see you again, and you know, it's not this wild thing, but it's like, no, this is what we do, and Sabrina's here, you know, and you know, it fits in the Sunday morning practice that we have. Yeah, so it's not a big, you know, jar. Yeah. So that's great.
And I keep telling people they're writing emails like don't just wait for me.
Right. That's good.
You know, because this is a community, and this is just one aspect of it, and like I can recognize a lot of the people there because I've seen them already 3 times. Like some of the people that are helping leadership, of course, the board, and how the worship but the people need leaders.
Right.
I can recognize 3 or 4 things. I've made a point of coming this and trying to come the week of the board meeting, but also when they have game night.
Yeah, I heard about game night.
And game night, it's great to get to know them. I get to play games, right? Like I played this weird game. It was funny and sort of chaotic, and you get to know people, and you get to know the young the kids.
That's great. No, when I heard you're doing, you get 2 times a month at least game night, that's great. And it takes those kind of things. And it's great when you can be there all the time. And the same thing.
Once a month.
We, you know, the ministers here this week, but we have our game nights. I should be here.
Right. And apparently last time I was here, last game night, they had a ton of people for some reason. That's great.
Oh, yeah, well, it's, you know, I think the most important thing that churches can be doing is connecting people.
Yes.
And there are still people who want to connect on Sunday morning, and there are still people who, like, you know, they can't handle the Methodists anymore, so they're still going to want to come to the Union Church or whatever it is. But there's also a lot of new people who don't know what happens on Sunday mornings. But you know, maybe somebody invites a family with kids, you know, to come and join it from game night, and that's all they do for a while. That'd be great.
Yeah, and if they don't want to come on Sunday, they have to find their community. Whatever that is.
Right, and that's why, you know, I do love this building, and I think there's lots of places, lots of ways to build community with this space, like game night, and Yeah, so that's, a lot of other churches, it's a prettier building, but like their old buildings with leaky basements and mold and stuff like that. But this is still such a wonderful building.
They're gonna have studio groups.
Yeah.
I wish that, maybe in the future there will be money to do the patio. Like,
Right, I looked at
wrap
that.
around.
Listen, that definitely
It's
needs
beautiful,
working.
because the music director and I was thinking, and it's a good thing we didn't, because it was too stressful to do water communion last month outside. We were gonna do it in the parking lot, so we went out there going, are we gonna do this? No, let's not. And then we both said, well, if this was successful, it would be great to open the windows and just be outside the river type thing. But, we did it inside and that worked. It went really well. Like, I had never seen every single person come on to water.
And they did.
And they did. And if people had water to bring, it was okay. But the point of how I did it is you can come and get water from here.
Right.
And you're just part of the community.
Yeah. It's great.
And everybody came, like even the new people.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah, no, excellent. Well, I think there's some real potential here, and they work very hard.
Yeah, and they listen.
Patrick worked with them,
I'm so grateful for the work and she left it very well.
So, but, my big concern is that the administration could exploit it.
Right. Well, and I try to put kind of firm boundaries. I may be also having something in St. Louis in the new year because Jim Mason's going on sabbatical.
Oh, okay.
As sabbatical minister, and since that's right there where I live.
Yeah.
And I told them I have this gig, so I can preach whenever I'm here. So my time will be more. And I've talked to the board about it and stuff and so that will even be more. I hope to do stuff with them because I'm kind of invested. I think about this place, even when I'm not in meetings, on Zoom or whatever. But I really like them, and I like that they're reacting slightly differently than in the same situation the congregation was not doing before they seem more able to hear.
Well, good.
I'm hopeful.
Well, I am too. Overall, I mean, they just, they were very intentional. Patrick, but they were lay folk too. They understood that this was a big shift. I'll say the only thing, I did look at the letter of agreement, and it looks like, there's like full-time ministry stuff. Extra physio.
Yeah, but they have to understand that I can't go to it.
I know. But
that's something maybe we talk about before.
Yeah, it would be. Because, you don't want to, I don't want people to have some expectations based on things not being super clear.
Right.
You care about what happens in communities.
Right.
You can't be, it's going to be super clear.
I wanted to tell them, and I'm hoping that this can be facilitated this weekend. Right now I'm getting taking everything because I have the time and I'm curious.
Right.
That doesn't mean that everything.
You're going to keep doing it. Yeah, you got to let them know. Yeah,
Right, and so that's my, as long as it serves me to tell them.
Yeah.
But sometimes meetings can be an email.
Right. Yeah. Excellent.
All right.
All right. Hello. Okay, there we go. Well, it sounds like a lot of things were discussed. So what I'd like to do now is, applause, but not for me. Okay, here we go. Well, look at that stand. There we go. Okay, so what I'd like to do is kind of hear from these groups and hear what kind of happened. And if somebody would like to come on up and, yeah. Hi. Okay, this is speaking of the 70s, okay. Hi, Joe. Good to see you. I think we have a camera there, so you can talk to the camera too. Hello, and I'll give you the microphone and you can share.
I speak for the 70s. All you youngsters don't remember that far back. No, Joanne and I came here in 1974. I came here for a job. Joanne came along with our twin 3-month-old daughters, and we moved in to the Winding Hills Apartments next door, which were just being built then. We had no family, no friends. We didn't know anybody here. But in Buffalo, New York, at grad school, we had become part of a Unitarian church there, especially the internal to that, a covenant group that was very, very supportive. So we came here, and it wasn't long before we came to this church at the time, and this became our family. This was our family here. So all our friends and so on, most of our friends to this day are from here. So that was the era of Tom Owen Toll, if you remember Tom. And Carolyn was still in training. They became co-ministers in San Diego after here, but she was sort of in training. It was sort of a joint affair. It was the tail end of the Vietnam War. There was a lot of war sentiment and so in terms of social issues. But Tom was a California boy. Tom had a guitar. Tom sang. We had hootenannies and stuff in here at the time. So it was a very lively, active, vibrant place at that time. The congregation in the 70s, I remember the church had weekend campouts. We'd go to Abe Lincoln and some of the other parks for weekend campouts. There was a very active circle supper contingent at the time where small groups, 6-8 people on a regular basis would just rotate around to different people's homes and have suppers there. That was very familial. It was very connective and very familial. There were other groups, and there were a lot of active groups. People remember the UFOs? No, not flying saucers, new guys, youngsters. They were what? The Unitarian Fun Organization, active groups. We had a baseball team, the UU Knights, way back when, if you remember those days. And what else do we have? Tom and Carolyn moved to California around 78 or thereabouts. And then Alan Egley just started his tenure after that. So the 80s people can speak to Alan. The building here, we had plastic chairs up here. I don't know who remembers the plastic chairs. Old white plastic chairs. We did not have the piano. This was a different floor. This came in later. The building itself was smaller. There was sort of a smaller addition somewhere around there. Then the 90s people can talk about the big addition we put on after that. Oh, Cliff reminds us, this white security build, whatever it is, next door opposite our parking lot, that wasn't there. Permars. We had cows. There were cows there. And the view here was going across the way where whatever that gas station is now. That was a farm originally, and then a barn hardware store type place was there back then. There were a lot of activities, games, community affairs. I think there was a much livelier connection with Temple Emmanuel, and Rabbi Karp was in there somewhere, and also the Edwards Congregational Church. We were a lot closer, I think, in those days. Musical groups, there were Rosie's Friends. Who remembers Rosie's Friends?
That's why you're in the 70s.
Youngsters. And social consciousness were things, the very beginnings of gay rights and so on in those days, and also the beginnings of a lot of the environmental kinds of concerns. So that's the gist of what we came up with.
Excellent. What was the name of the baseball team again?
The UU Knights.
The UU Knights with a K.
With a K.
Yeah, okay.
Who bought the piano?
After Mike?
Knights.
Okay, okay.
Joe, who broke
Oh,
the piano?
do you know when?
Piano came later. I want to say the piano, I think, came somewhere in the early to mid 80s.
Because it was here when we came.
Yes.
Was that Sowers?
I'm sorry?
Was it Sowers?
Who donated it?
It might have been, yeah. See, our girls were around first grade and they were starting lessons, and not here, but we lived in Rock Island until 85, and when we came in 85, they picked up with Marge Kling, but not here at her house. But it was right around that time that the piano came in.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I was going to say the best name I've heard for like a Unitarian baseball or softball team is the Tolerators. The Tolerators. Hey, 80s. Do we have a representative for the 80s? Want to join me? I can get the mic to you, meet you. Whoop, that's about as far as I'm going to go. Yeah, that's all right.
I'll come up there.
Okay.
My friend there took some notes and I got some.
All right.
Yes. Anyway, let's see. Alan Egley was the minister at the time that I joined. And we had a huge search committee of 15 people that went out to look for Charlotte Justice Saleska. Oh, sure, like this? There we go. Okay. Yeah, the 15 people search committee for Saleska. And let's see. Oh, yeah, we had a motorhome that Jim Mentius owned, and we'd all go to the candidate sermons in this big, huge motorhome, and we all fit in there because 15 people was quite a crowd. And cakes for heaven. What was that? Cakes for heaven?
Cakes for Queen of Heaven.
Cakes for the Queen of Heaven. I don't remember that.
Catherine Allen led it.
Oh, Catherine Allen did? Okay. And that we think the coffee house was started in the late 80s. And a little story with the social justice, social concerns committee at the time. And that is the social concerns committee saw that the Quad City Interfaith was started, and the social concerns wanted the church to participate in that. But oh no, that would speak for members that weren't part of the committee. And so if the social concerns committee wanted to join, that was one thing. but not for the whole church unless they join the committee, then they could be part of the interfaith group. And let's see, that's about it that's on the list here. So, oh yeah, and there, does anybody remember Elvis on Velvet?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That's about.
And Alan Egley.
Yeah, Alan Egley. Yeah, he was a good guy.
Was here, Alan? Was he here like the whole 80s?
No, he started in '79. He left before the end of the '80s.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a in the hallway. There's a bunch of pictures with the years on there. Okay, that's about it.
Okay. Oh, and I met Alan. And where does he started the Chalice Lighter program? Do people? Yeah, that's what, you remember that too? Yeah, so thank you, Alan. That's a great, yeah, it's a great program. Chalice Lighters program is where individual Unitarian Universalists in the region sign up, and 3 times a year there's a call to raise money to help another congregation do something. So it's been very successful over the years. But speaking of years, is this like the first decade of the 21st century? This is the 90s, okay. You're the first decade of the 20th. Okay, all right, 90s.
The three of us who claimed the 90s all were a little bit sporadic at that time. So we don't have huge memories, but a couple of things stood out to us. The coffee house was very vibrant during that time. And also the QCAD that Wiley started QCAD, they had some other name before they were called the QCAD, but I don't remember what that was. But anyway, they started that in the 90s here and did a lot of activities here. Quad Cityans Affirming Diversity, which is an organization that supports gay, lesbian, LGBTQIA plus everybody. And Jack and Joyce Wiley pretty much started that group in response to a personal situation in their family. And that was a big thing that happened in the 90s. And Charlotte Seleska was the minister at the beginning of the 90s, and I don't remember how long into the 90s she was here.
Right at the beginning, around 2000.
Around 2000 was when she retired.
Then there was the search for.
Okay, so we'll let the next people talk about that. Anything else?
Well, Charlotte's accomplishments.
Charlotte's accomplishments included starting the endowment, the addition. She arranged all of the financing, evidently.
Well,
She got it organized. She got it organized, and the building for the addition. And there was something else that was significant. I think she was pretty active in some other social justice stuff.
Becoming a welcoming congregation.
Becoming a welcoming congregation happened in the 90s for the first time, yes. So those were some notable accomplishments that,
We were also the first church in the Quad Cities, the first organization that did recycling.
right. I'll repeat that for the people who are listening over YouTube. We were the first organization in the Quad Cities to initiate recycling.
Awesome. Lots of good things in the 90s. So what happened when the turn of the century came? That's you all, right? First decade? Nobody wants to, yeah?
Before we leave the 90s, that's when we had our first web page
Oh,
and our email list.
oh, okay, the 90s, first web page and email list, all right. That's good.
We also did campouts then, and they still had the baseball team, and there was tons of social activities, connection.
Okay.
Circles meals.
Yeah, so the Circle Suppers, the baseball team, all of that was going on, okay.
The youth group was 18 to 24 strong, traveled by multiple cars to cons
Okay,
every month.
yeah. All right, does somebody want to say something? John, it's you. Yeah.
We're boring compared to all these other old farts. When we came, Roger Butts was the new minister here. And Roger Butts had the tendency to ramble in his church homilies, but Jen and I always said that when we were going home, we had something to talk about. I remembered Wacky Wednesdays, which he organized through the different committees to have things going on at the same time on Wednesday, so you could choose what event you wanted to, and the place was lit up on Wednesdays. Coffee's always been on Sunday.
No, where we go to some coffee.
Oh, that's true. He would suggest, let's go to Starbucks, and 30 people would follow him, and we'd sit there and have coffee. What else, Barb? Come on.
We're going to tell them about the baseball team,
We already talked about the baseball.
but how it happened.
No,
Or how it ended up over there.
You're right. The initial baseball team ended up over in Green Valley and Moline because the church league that we played in here didn't think we Unitarians were a church. So they kicked us out of the league. We had to find somebody in Moline to allow us to play. And as we got old, we stopped playing, but we still gather 2 times a month to break bread and drink beer and tell lies.
Your name is.
And my name is John.
No, the Romeos.
She wants to talk.
Apparently.
Yeah. And then Mary Moore came. Mary Moore was a very nice person until she spoke at the pulpit.
She's so nice.
She was a nice person, but her preaching voice was like scratching a blackboard. But one-on-one, she was the most pleasant person you want to meet. So we went through the interim period to get Jay.
Circle suppers.
In mid-90s to like 2005, we had the we had the gay and lesbian proms here
Okay,
every year.
okay,
It was a really big deal.
okay. So the Circle Suppers were still going on, and you had the gay and lesbian prom was here every year. Yeah, with the larger community, yeah.
Yeah, multiple.
We also had both in the 90s and 2000s Common Ground, which was a group of pro-life, pro-choice that came together
Oh, okay,
to meet and talk about
okay,
on which they could agree and try to do some things in the community.
yeah.
Where Planned Parenthood was perceived positively because it was working on, trying to get access to birth control. And
So it's pro-life and pro-choice people working together
yeah,
to,
we had a clinic in Davenport, so
hmm,
we had a lot of
wow,
yeah.
Yeah. Reproductive rights.
And we have really a robust adult education.
okay,
Nancy Hughes led some really great classes, and other people did too.
okay. Robust adult religious education
We
programming.
had one every Sunday before church.
Every Sunday before church, we'd have programming, have the forum, yeah,
Other things were evenings generally.
yeah.
Darcy, what happened to the Tuesdays prom? Died out?
The prom,
They started being able to do it in school,
oh,
take their partners to regular.
oh, okay. All right, so,
I think Block has reorganized something.
okay. Well, a lot of good community things happening here, which is great. So, 2010s, the teens, anybody? What happened? We want to know.
I love group projects. So I didn't come until 2014. Were any of you before 2014? Did we talk about that? 2013. So we might be missing a couple years in there. But so we all had Jay the whole time, who was very involved in social justice, certainly after Michael Brown was killed and after Trump was elected, there was a lot of activity in the community that Jay would participate in and invite folks to. Gail remembers choir rehearsal one night after Trump was elected where a bunch of car windows were broken. Either I had a very young child and just was not paying attention to anything in life, or I missed that one. I got lucky.
Like here, they were broken?
In our parking lot, yeah.
I didn't take offense.
We talked about some more personal things around how a sense of lack of welcome for new people, and then the welcome teams getting started, and how I'm not aware. At least nobody ever invited me to dinner at their house. Circle suppers going on at that point, or I'm sure Darcy has invited me to dinner. I correct myself. But it sounded like some of that was perhaps still going on informally. And yes. Oh, thank you. Yes, anyone else who wants to invite me to dinner, please. My dance card is open. We had Chimes Choir. When I joined, Sheila Doak was the music director, and then when she, to my understanding, left because she was Catholic and she was not comfortable with us giving to abortion providers. So, like, if we passed the plate, and so then Saul became the music director, and he had a phenomenal voice, and he did a lot of Broadway musicals with us and so on. John Whitson, I guess, would have been the next one after Saul, and his husband Matthew directed the Chimes Choir. They moved away when Matthew got a different job, and John Whitson became the music director, and his husband Justin was the pianist. And they weren't here for super long, but they were here at least through COVID. So getting into the next decade. And we had there, I cannot tell any details of this story, but there was some significant conflict in the later part of the decade where several people left. A lot have not come back. And I know that people left and didn't come back after COVID, and so I don't necessarily always know who left for what reason and didn't come back, but we lost some really, really involved members. We lost people from that were not white, middle class, I would say. We've become more homogenous since that happened. And wasn't there some music in the sanctuary? The coffee house? Is that what you're referring to? Oh, yes, some of us were attracted to church because of music. Sheila invited me to join the choir after my first service here, and so that definitely hooked me right away. And we had, yes, after, I don't remember, was it after Trump was elected or around that time that we started the Sanctuary Project, and our main drivers of the Sanctuary Coalition, with the intention of housing someone seeking asylum here in our building. And so now we do still support Anna Patricia, but she never lived here. Was that because of COVID that she never lived here? Do you know? Because she ended up living with Darcy and Steve.
Yeah,
got sponsors for these people, let's get them out of here. And we were contacted by the UUA and something called CASA, because we were part of Quad City Air. And Steve rose his hand for us to house her, so.
Okay. And I know there's other things I'm forgetting. Earth-based traditions started, and so I know we have several folks who are very involved with that who don't necessarily come to Sunday service. So if Sunday service is your jam, you might not recognize all those folks. And I know I'm forgetting something, but thanks for your help.
Yes, sounds like a busy decade. And now we're up to 2024.
Thank you. I'd say the period that we were in was a very, very flux type of situation. When we came here, Betty and I first started, we didn't even have a coffee hour. I mean, we were going through the pandemic, and so we were going through a terrific transition on that. And so it was the time of Jay Woolen, and we thought that he was great. I think the thing that we really liked, Betty and I, as an example, were not part of a religious group at all before we came here, and we felt that this group has been very, very outgoing. We've been invited to several people's homes for dinner, and people just really felt like we were welcome here, and that is something that we just really, really enjoy. And I think that, so we talked about that period, you know, after the pandemic. Like I said, it was Jay Woolen for a while. I guess we did not have services at all. Before the pandemic, I guess that Jay was having 2 services a Sunday and coffee hour. And that's the type of thing that went through. So after that, of course, we dropped down to just 1 service and no coffee hour for as long time before the coffee hour came back, which is really, really, I think, a great event here at the church. And we had quite a group. Most of the people here in our group are from Iowa, so consequently, we got to talking about politics too. And we mentioned too, you know, like Illinois is a slam dunk for Kamala. It's Democratic and it's going to go for Kamala. Whereas Iowa, I guess that you're saying that it's kind of going through a transition period. Maybe it will actually, hopefully vote for Kamala. I think the thing that really scares me is that anybody in their right mind would give Trump the button to the magical doomsday button, nuclear weapons and all that. Who would do that? But I guess there's people who will still do it. Hope I haven't offended anybody by saying that.
Well, it's in a period of growth.
What's that?
I think we could also say we're in a period of growth. We've been getting a lot of new people coming and checking us out now over the past almost year. We've had a lot. Our last time we got 22 members the last time, so that's significant, and it's still growing.
Yeah. We actually have a native Australian.
Yeah.
Who's part of
We're also now active within the Quad Cities Interfaith Organization.
Okay.
In there and doing more social justice involved.
That's awesome.
Going back to growth, not only that, but when my mom and I came here, we came with the intention of making a new team for digital communications, and we did that.
Yes.
And we had Patrick for 2 years, of course.
Mm-hmm.
It is definitely a growth period. And one of the other things we talked about too, of course, Jay Woolen resigned, and so we had some difficulty finding a replacement. And for a long time, we even talked about the possibility of not hiring a chaplain at all. And one of the main reasons for that is we're in a money crunch. And so how do we pay a chaplain?
Thank you. Thank you all. And yes, I will say I've done this exercise in at least 3 congregations over the last year or so. And this is the largest group of people I've seen coming from the 2020s. So you're very heartening to see. But they're very heartening to see too. And all of you in between. Now, this is really a wonderful, wonderful group. And each decade there was so many things happening. And, you know, okay, so the baseball team's gone, but there's a lot of things that the circle suppers, they may not be called that, but I'm sure people are finding ways to connect and get together outside of church, like going to get coffee afterwards or whatever. And that's really one of the best things that religious community can do for you, is you start to make those connections, and then they go beyond what happens here. So, Sabrina, that was all for your benefit. Y'all didn't get anything at all about this, sitting in a circle talking about what happened, you know. No, it's always good to hear. It's always good to hear these things. And so Sabrina and I were talking too, and you know, we think this is I'm just happy to hear you say we're in a growth period. We do think, you know, that things are happening here, and it's very, you know, heartwarming. And people still need a place where they can explore, you know, spirituality, morality, but from a progressive point of view. You know, people still need that. It's, you know, so I'm glad you're here, and I hope that you stay here. And yeah, and I'm glad that we got to this point. Patrick I worked with him a little bit. Some of you folks did, and he did a great job. And then Sabrina is here. So I am bullish on Quad Cities. That's me. So we do this thing on Friday night. So people who aren't are we just having the board tomorrow pretty much? Yeah. It's really about, you know, the board working with Sabrina about what this ministry is going to be about. But we do this with everybody on Friday night, so folks get a sense of what we're trying to do, but also so Sabrina can get a sense of what the actual living history is of this congregation. And I'd say it's pretty vibrant still. It sounded vibrant in the 70s, and it's just kept going. So tomorrow, Lori, 9 o'clock is the doors open?
I think the program council is also, at least a member of the program council.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So how many board members are here right now? Yeah. Yay, board. Okay. So we're looking forward to it. Sabrina, do you have anything you want to say at all after hearing this? Not to put you on the spot.
This is great to hear. Like, I like the stories, the human stories. I have the archives gave me the narrative history of this place from way back in the 1800s, but it's a completely different vibe to hear
Yeah.
from live actual people.
Yeah.
They're both good.
Right.
It's just people are one thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we could try to keep going to 8:30, or we could just say it's been a wonderful time, starting with a wonderful ice cream social.
Let's thank Jan now. She's up there.
Yay! Woohoo! You did, worked really hard, and you're right. Yeah. Oh, that was great. No, I mean.
Oh, wait. Take it.
That was it.
Yeah. Okay. So that was fun, and I hope people enjoyed that, and I hope you enjoyed hearing stories from each of the decades. And there'll be some sort of report back about what happens tomorrow for the rest of you, and you can just, but I think you are off to a great start. I know Sabrina's already been preaching and things like that, and so I am looking forward to seeing what happens here, and I'm looking forward to seeing the board tomorrow and Sabrina, and everybody else, enjoy the rest of Friday evening and Saturday and Sunday, the whole weekend. Why not? And thank you, yeah.
Let's put our chairs back. Put your chairs back.
There's